another computer. All right, welcome to the comms workflow review. Comms team, I want to go over quickly the makeup of the team, our mission, and to start off here, let me just move this little icon so it minimizes the screen. We go through comms is responsible, STIAMP, for an activation message that gets sent to all potential EEE members, as well as the comms team, dispatchers, the escort pilots, the comms people who are responsible for tracking. So you'll get an activation notice from me. We support dispatch, which is incoming calls coming in off the 800 hotline number, the request for evacuation or technical rescues. And note that new for 2021 is we are now tied into the 911 dispatchers console, both at Prescott as well as the regional center here for the Tri-City area. We also are responsible for the escorts. This is the new name. They were called pilots. We are now transitioning and changing all our documentation to call them escorts, and that's to alleviate a little bit of a co-pilot versus pilot from the co-pilot's position in the evac team. So escorts, which is a good, accurate description of what they actually do. I'm going to go over tonight. We are responsible for mission tracking. So once a mission is underway, we want to track it from beginning to the end. And then I'll go over a little bit about reporting, what the comms team will do from a reporting perspective, and a little bit of logistics. We are the first voice of the EEE. When those calls come in over the 800 hotline, we're receiving those incoming requests from the animal owners or agents. We're the first responder, so it's first voice that the customer actually hears is the dispatch team. We also provide up-to-date status to the various members of EEE about where our missions are, all the resources that are out in the field, where are they at any one period of time, when we can expect them to complete their mission. All this is doing is creating a very safe operating environment for the team members, especially those that are out in the field. We have a lot of dispatchers. Unfortunately, Beth has been inactivated, but as is Bev. But we have an active list of dispatchers, and their contact information are scattered around. Our escort team, we've got a fairly good and growing list of escorters. These are people that are going to be communicating long distance back to comm center, and they're the ones that are leading off the evac rigs to let them know the road conditions, travel conditions, and to identify any hazards they may be running into on their commute to and from the customer's pickup site and back to staging or the ultimate destination where they're going to be going. And we have several people who are a combination of comms co-leads as well as comms that are going to be helping perform a mission tracking function. And this is going to be critical to make sure that everybody's aware of where the missions are out in the field and when we can expect them to be completed on their way. This is a very simple diagram showing a workflow, kind of from activation. We enter a state where we're waiting for calls coming into the dispatch center. That's that 800 call ladder where a single call comes in and will get wrapped through each of those dispatchers you saw in the team. First one that picks up, handles the call, and generates a request for assistance form. They fill that out and then electronically send that to the evac team or the contact that's on the RFA form, depending on the type of evacuation that's required, or technical rescue or COVID or taxi service. The evac team, and I just highlighted that in yellow, that's Carol's responsibility. She will put together and pair a combination of escorts and the rigs necessary that are best suited both on locale, which ones are located closest to the incident, as well as the technical, the size of the rig and the technical qualifications of the people that are needed for that call. Once that alignment is done, the mission is about ready to get kicked off. It gets sent back to comms, and we begin our tracking function. And this is the piece that I want to focus on tonight. That tracking is essentially from the very start to the end of the mission. We will keep tabs on what's going on, and we're going to be keeping a logbook of that mission status. Along with that same logbook will be rows on a whiteboard outside in the staging area, outside the comms table. And then one of our other functions, periodically, we're going to need to report to other teams. This picture just shows evac, but in reality, that reports, such as our active comms roster or mission status, is going to be going to the incident liaison, as well as staging and other areas that want to get a hold of that information. The activation state, when we get the activation team gets word that there is an incident, a potential incident underway, I'm going to send out a notice via SMS text. We had been using WhatsApp in the past, and we may be migrating. I'm going to try to migrate some testing in March, where we do this through straight SMS text messaging versus WhatsApp. And we'll see which one, if any of them, will work better than the other. There's some pluses to using just a straight SMS text, and that is for a bit of automation, where I can take the master roster from Linda, cut out pieces of that automatically, and be able to blast messages to email to text service, and send that out electronically, I think a little bit faster than what I can do, and easier to manage. If people come on the list or off the list, it'll be easier to manage than that WhatsApp app. But when you get that activation, as comms folks, I need you to respond as quickly as possible. And that is to say that you're available to help as a volunteer, you're not available to say no, or that you may be in the future, meaning maybe in a few hours or in a half a day or in the next day or whatever. But that response helps us build up the roster of available volunteers, the resources that we have at our disposal to use for that incident handling. And we may send a couple of these per day asking for assistance. So, people are not going to be working 24/7, 4-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts, or whatever, that you can volunteer your time. We need to figure out, if we start running dry on resources, we may need additional help. I may have to send out these notifications requesting for response again, so we get additional resources. The dispatch process, we've gone over this many times, but a quick review. It's the activation notification, response. Once you get those, the dispatch team will respond to say they can be put on the active handlers list. I go in and modify the Grasshopper application to enable or disable dispatchers from that list, so you can begin to receive hotline calls. And primarily, you're going to be working on those from your virtual location. You can do those from your home. We might have to deploy to a staging area, and you're welcome to join us at staging. It may make things a little easier to join us there, as you can maybe handle multiple roles. You can switch off from being a dispatch operator to being a comms tracker. So maybe deploying it at a staging location might help with that switch. And you can do that both virtually as well. But your primary job, of course, is to fill in that RFA, then send it to the appropriate contacts listed in the RFA for the evac team, and then make note of your call in the dispatcher's log. And that log gets sent in to me at the end of the shift. When you're completed your duties for the day, just send me that log file of which calls you handled, and that's it. It's a simple, lightweight, reasonably fast process for dispatchers. We're looking at ways to optimize some of the taking a picture of the RFA and sending it. I'm actually starting a conversation with some Emory-Riddle students on Friday night to begin looking at ways that we might be able to enter the data that we do both as log files as well as the RFA in an online format. So that may be something we can realize later in 2021. The RFA is minor change in 2021. It's a very familiar form. We're going to be going through this as an exercise again in the March timeframe. Very clearly, we're going to create some cheat sheets with all these telephone numbers for who to call depending on the type of rescue, be it evac or technical rescue. Call first and then text message. Carol wanted to emphasize to call first before you actually send your text message with the RFA. And then if there's COVID care or transport, there's a slightly smaller list of contacts. And always when you get the RFA and you're filling that out, make sure you figure out from the caller whether this is an urgent request or not. Urgent meaning they've been told to evacuate immediately, or it's a critical rescue service and this is an urgent call. And that prioritizes when evac gets multiple calls, they'll know to prioritize which one's first. And always, big thing is you got to get a call back from the evac team that they have received, the RFA, and they have no questions. Everything is clear on the form. They will call you back and let you know that it's been acknowledged. If you don't, please get a hold of me. And if you can't get a hold of them, please get a hold of me, and I will contact them through multiple channels. As a note, it's best to keep telephone numbers that we have, and we're going to create a cheat sheet for this, but keep all your contacts up to date with the latest telephone numbers so that it doesn't end up in spam. The dispatcher's log, very easy to fill out. Time of the call, the owner, the animal's agent, and the phone numbers, whether it's you've gotten that confirmation back, the RFA has been texted and you got it received, or it's been handed in physically if you're at a staging area, and then the type of mission, which one it was. That's it. Escorts, once you get your activation notice, please respond to the text message as always, but we're going to rally on a radio frequency. The hams will know what this is, the Mingus Mountain repeater for the Verde Valley Amateur Radio Association's UHF repeater at 449.425 on Mingus. So we'll meet there and rally. We did that last September when we were handling one of the fires, and we a couple of times last year actually on standby. That worked out very well. Now the escorts, you will receive a call from the evac manager. When Carol and team are coordinating the mission and aligning appropriate rigs with escorts, you will physically get a call on your phone from them to sync up with a certain rig or a set of rigs. If we are at staging, we'll probably be using the frequency MERS 5 for that level of communication, and you'll be able to hear that from evac directly and to and from the rigs. Your job, of course, is to lead the evac rigs and keep them informed of road conditions and hazards. You're going to do that over that radio channel, MERS 5, or you can be used to pass messages to and from them from net control, from the comm center at staging area if we're formally deployed, or over the repeater in the virtual environment even. But be sure, again, to have their contact information in your cell phone, and to call in to Comm Central before you and the rig are heading out on a mission. We should be getting, you want to be out on the road as quickly as possible. And as soon as you're starting to go, make sure you call in and let comms know so that we can begin the timestamp on when your mission has started. We're periodically going to be checking with you no later than a 30-minute interval to let you know, to let us know for tracking purposes where you are in your process, so how far along you are. We don't need mileage numbers or anything. It's just simple. You're en route, you're at the pickup, or you've just crossed a roadblock. You're traveling en route to the staging, or you're en route to the pickup, or you've finished and you're available to be rescheduled and recycled for another mission. At comms, as soon as the mission starts, we get a packet of information from the evac team. That's going to tell us which rigs are involved, which evac escorts are participating, if any, contact information, copy of the RFA, and we have that packet of information, and we're going to create a log entry and entry on the whiteboard for that mission. And we're going to keep that updated as time goes on. We will contact the escort lead from net control or directly to the rigs via a cell phone. And that's really, ideally, if everybody was on the repeater, it would all be radio contact, but we got to split this up between both radio and cell phones to make this all work. Again, we want to do an interval check with them no less than 30 minutes. We also don't want to do it every 5 minutes because it's not needed. So, don't let it go, once every 20 minutes or 15, 20 minutes, I think is just fine. And that gives security for them as they're going en route. We know they're not running into trouble. We know we can have constant communication with them because if something changes en route, if they get a smoke starts making the roads impassable, we need to tell you to stop or to turn around, or that bad weather maybe is rolling in. Let's see. So we also want to get these updates from the rigs as they are completing their mission so that we can inform evac that the resources are now available. This is a draft version of a tracking log, and please forgive the format. I couldn't get it to look large enough on the screen to make sure it's right, but essentially it's a simple form in general. It looks busy. Really, it's going to have a mission number, the rigs that are involved. So, and this is mission 1, and there are actually 2 rigs and 1 escort driver. And then there's phone numbers for the rig, phone numbers for both rigs, and a phone number for the escort. We know that there is no tracking currently on the rigs, meaning they don't have any automatic means to track their location, but the pilot does. And that's useful to us because we can have a map on a display that shows their location within a very fine granularity of time. But we're going to track when you left on your mission, the last time we have contacted you. So we know it's been 23 minutes since they left, and the last time we talked to them was 23 minutes into the mission. In your state, in this case, mission 1 was en route to pick up on Senator Highway. In mission 2, they started a half hour earlier. They've already done their pickup. They're en route to staging and their current location. And this is approximation. If there's intersections, we can write that down, but rough approximations for now is I think all we're going to be able to do at best without some form of automated tracking, GPS locations, basically. Here we see mission 3, and they had started at 12 o'clock. It took them an hour and a half, but they were finished. They are at staging currently, and they are both available to be recycled for another mission. So that's kind of the idea of what we want to track. The communication to do this is going to be a combination of radio when we communicate to an escort. When there's an escort vehicle available, we can communicate from either the staging area or from a virtual setting over the radio to those vehicles. The escorts, in turn, could relay information to and from themselves and the rigs. So we may not need to contact them, each rig, by phone if the escort has been in contact with them. But if they're not, if there's some issue due to distance or the radio's not working, then the comms team, the trackers, will contact each rig directly via cell phone if the cellular links are working. The states, in terms of what we want to track, we want to know that you're departing, you've left state, or you're en route to the pickup, you've reached your pickup. It may take you some time to do your pickup. You're en route back to staging or to your ultimate destination. You've reached staging. You may not be finished. So there's a time difference between when you're at staging, you've got to unload, you got to clean up, maybe you got to get gasoline for the vehicles. And then when you are completed, you're available, you're finished, and we can recycle you to another mission. Probably also want to know, and it's kind of an instant, that you've passed a roadblock, either en route to the pickup or en route from staging, en route to staging. So you've passed a roadblock. That's just kind of might be a useful thing to track. And again, location, it could be a mile marker, but it's most likely the most useful would be an intersection or approximate location verbally. If we can't get you on a tracking map from the escorts, then approximate location will do. The escorts, if you have your APRS capability in your rig, then we want to set it for, I'd recommend about a 3-minute, no more than 5-minute interval. I think those breadcrumbs will be enough for us to give us a good granularity of where you are without over taxing the packet radio system for too many messages, tracking messages. And then this tracking log will evolve. We want to have notes, for instance, if there are any reports from the escorts that there are hazards or that there's safety issues. Somebody's gotten a flat tire, or they've had to stop en route to pick up a horse or some animal. Then we want to know those safety issues and notes, and also log it with the mission. A straight little form may be a little challenging to do that. So,
Doug, you're getting questions on chat.
Yeah, we'll handle those at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Again, trackers, you may be tracking multiple rigs on a single mission. So we got to keep that group together on the log and the tracking log. Don't forget to call via the radio if there's an escort, or cellular for rigs. And we want to, check if you haven't heard from them, and within that 30-minute time, it's kind of what public service does when the dispatcher calls for an officer and asks for a code 500 for a station. They say, yeah, code 4, which means everything's fine, nothing is. If they don't hear from somebody after a while, they know that there's a potential problem, and they may need to dispatch additional help to help them out in the role. All right, let's see. Remember, our goal is to be sure that we know where our resources are on any mission. Staying in contact provides a good safety net for all the volunteers. They're going to feel comfort that there's people looking out for them. They're not on their own. So our ability to communicate with the evac team is going to be really important to do so, and do so in an efficient means. We want to make sure that we keep evac informed when their resources are available so they can reassign them to a new mission. And that's will determine how well we do with our response time. You know, there's going to be some inter-team communications with us. The comms team will be responsible for potentially passing messages between different groups. We may do this via a combination of both radios as well as cellular calls. We're going to be needing to send reports off to people. If you send in a report, it's probably going to be a spreadsheet, or we may actually send as a PDF, but we may email our teams daily briefings, daily reports of how many missions we did, you know, stats and status. So when we're running in a virtual environment, there's probably going to be a little bit more cellular communication, since not everybody will have radios. But if we're at staging, we're going to be probably handling a lot more radio traffic. In a previous Zoom session, I had a list of frequencies for the various teams. We'll publish those and have some laminated cheat sheets that we'll have for each team, as well as at the comm center, so we know which each team. And this is for passing traffic. If somebody says, hey, you know, we've got a mission coming in, we want to let staging know that there's a mission that will be arriving, let's say, within 5 minutes, and to get prepared. Or the traffic coordination is going to be key in a staging area. So having a heads up that we know the team is on their way or will be arriving shortly will give everybody, you know, a heads up that there's missions coming in or going out. So let's see, and there's going to be at staging, at least we'll have printers capability that we can print out logs, rosters, and reports. We'll physically be handing them off to the individual teams periodically. As comms leads, we're going to be net control. We're going to be responsible for keeping our comms roster updated for the escorts, the dispatchers, and all our comms volunteers. And we'll probably update that roster. I was thinking within a 4-hour time frame. I don't think it would be sooner than that, but maybe every 4 hours. And then we'll send mission status updates for EVAC and IC, the Incident Command Liaison. We may do that in a 2-hour interval, or if IC in a pretty busy incident, we may end up doing that on an hourly basis. We'll see. Futures. We are going to try to drill an exercise during March and April to go through the process to actually create these tabletop missions. We can do this all virtually, but we will make the physical phone calls. We will simulate what it's like to go through a tracking exercise without actually, you know, performing the mission, but to go through those scenarios. I'm looking at, again, futures of looking at tools and applications we can deploy, especially at staging area, so we can have a web status. The incident commander can potentially query our website and look at the status of our resources and where the missions are. If we can get some funding, we may add some capabilities or GPS tracking for rigs. Heart sign there, I don't know where that came from. And add more ham radio operators. There's a lot of those now. I don't know where that's coming from. And then, of course, at each incident, we're going to be looking at ways we can improve our performance. This is a post-mission review, looking at ways that things went bad, things went good, and what we can do to improve and make our missions a little more efficient all the way around. I want to thank you all as volunteers for comms. Let me now open this up for questions. And I see we've got a big query on chat. So let me, if you have any questions, please feel free to call me directly, or at best to email me. If you do, try to use the subject line EEE, as that helps me in my email filters. But let me stop sharing for a moment and bring up the chat box. Okay. Craig is asking, automatic packet reporting system is an amateur radio-based system. That's correct. Data can include GPS. Yes, correct. Yep. And I have had, as shown in other Zoom sessions, Craig's, the value of APRS. Actually, I showed that to the conversation we had this week at the emergency management station at the EOC. And RC was really all over that. He really thought that would be absolutely cool.
Yeah, I was the one putting the hearts on for the rigs, because I'm a rig driver.
I gotcha. Yeah, and there's two different types. You can do APRS as well as a cellular-based tracking system. I bought a version of that last year. It's questionable how well that works, and the fact that it's a different system, it's two different maps and all, but there is the option that potentially we can use that as to augment non-hams to have an APRS system in their rig. I think the rules may be fine. We could deploy an APRS setup on a rig who is not a ham, as long as there is ham control of that device, and it will be under the umbrella of EEE, so we might be able to get away with that. Let's see. I think my RFA is okay. If I can get one, I'll make copies. Log, sorry, is old. Yes, the website is being updated now with all updates to the standard operating procedures, and that includes all the forms. We've made some edits. There's probably still some underway because, like I said, we're changing the terminology of pilots to now escorts. So that's the thing. So we.
Doug?
Yes, Carol.
The website has been updated. I think the only two that we need to update still are SOP 11 and 12.
Okay.
But they're current documents now, other than that.
Okay.
RFA.
Let's see. Margaret said, I think it is so great we can communicate through the radio system, which is real-time information. Setting this all up is great. Yes, I think the more people we can get radioactive or get a ham radio license, so to speak, rig drivers, if you had a ham radio rig in that rig, the need of an escort kind of goes away. But we do, it'll be great to be able to pair you up with the escort, and that real-time radio is, it's a very fast communication than cell phones. Even though cell phones are ubiquitous and we all use them today, and it's great. Sandra says, no printers, so need one hard copy. I'll get any forms you need. Yes, we'll hand those out. I haven't seen one for last week. They're going to be posted. Can you provide information on a ham radio class you talked about last week? Yes, I should get more information on that. If you go to w7yrc.org, there's a website that has, that's the Yavapai Amateur Radio Club, and they've got a link on there with all information about licensing. I haven't been keeping up to date on what the latest one has been going on. We will be doing a mock drill. Lori, yes, we will be doing mock drill. We'll be doing I want to have a separate exercise just for the dispatchers to go through the RFA process. We've done that a couple times last year just to test the incoming call ladder and how that all works. And then further, as in terms of a tabletop mock drill, I've talked to John and Carol and Alan about the need for going through the whole workflow process. We come up with a fake mission. Say this, we predict there's 20 horses in Groom Creek that need evacuation due to fire, or we'll come through a technical rescue simulation. We'll come up with the simulation parameters. We'll send some instructions out in an email first, but then we will go through the activation on the notification for call up, and we'll go through all the steps, and including having folks that'll be calling in over the hotline, so that you'll fill out the RFA, you'll send it to evac, they'll go ahead and pair the missions, they'll dispatch the mission. We will then begin to get notified of that and begin our tracking, and then we'll follow it, we'll simulate it. It won't be, of course, having to go out on the road and actually do something, but it'll be a tabletop. We can do this all virtually. And we do a couple of those. I think it'll really work out the process and make sure everybody is in sync with what they can expect. We'll be on the radios to simulate passing traffic. And on the phones to do the same, to check in and do tracking with the rigs or the rig drivers, I think. So will Sandy fold my laundry for me? Nice, Craig.
Over there.
Nice.
You didn't even see that here.
That's one of the things with Zoom sessions, right? It's all sorts of stuff's going on in the background. It could really cause trouble.
You could turn off. She could turn off her camera.
I've got the mic open.
Oh,
Let's see.
boy.
How to get set up for APRS and what does it cost?
I've raised.
Ron, that's kind of an opening question. I can chat with you offline on that. It's depending, you can buy rigs with APRS functionality built into it. I know.
I'd like to know more about that, Doug. So
Okay.
I don't necessarily take it off, too far offline, because I'd like to know about that more.
So right now, it requires a ham radio licensee. So if you're a ham and you happen to buy a radio, let's say for your vehicle, I have a Yaesu, what's called the Yaesu FT400. That radio cost me about $500-600 at the time. I think they're probably about $450 or $500 now. And it has 2 radios in it. In one of them, I can dedicate to be an APRS beacon. And what this is it sends out a beacon is a packet of data that contains the GPS location of your transmitter and its speed or movement. And this shows up in a map. I can go to, if you let me share my screen for a second. Let's see if I go to, bring this up. Let's go to aprs.fi. And okay, this is a current map of our general area. Everybody sees that, I hope. This is just is Mingus Mountain and Union Prescott's over here. Each of these little icons, the blue ones here, are weather stations. I don't see anybody that's in a vehicle at the moment, but they will show up on the screen and leave a trail of breadcrumbs as they beacon their position. So on a Google map such as this, it gives us an idea of a person's location as they're traveling. And this is the very useful information for tracking rigs. Now our escorts, I think there's, I know Lee, KD6 QND, Steve Pearson, KC7 TIL. There's at least 2 or 3 people that have APRS capabilities. Let's see if I can, I guess I gotta use this.
So I just want to say, Doug, so the first step is becoming a ham radio operator is the first step.
That's not real easy.
That is Ideally, the very first step, yes. There are conditions that under an emergency situation, I believe the FCC will allow me to have a set of APRS beacons that we can deploy on vehicles that do not have an active ham radio operator on them. I have to go look up the ruling and ask folks on that, but I think since they are under the purview of a control operator, me, that we may be able to create a, during that emergency, deploy some of those devices on a rig directly. We do this for public service events. We can deploy an APRS tracker on a, let's say, called a sweep vehicle. It's something that, let's say there's the whiskey Chino grinder, the bike race or car race or the Horde-Man horse race. There'll be a follow vehicle that's sweeping the trail, and that usually is a medical 4x4 or whatever, but they may have an APRS rig in it to track its location. So from the command center, we know that's the last person on the race route. And we may deploy some of these on vehicles throughout the race to indicate the progress of a race or so. I don't know if they have to be hams though, because they're all operating under the environment of hams to set that up. So.
I just find that to be a very special safety feature.
Oh, absolutely.
Like for our people.
Ever
sure.
since day one, this
For
is
sure.
one of the reasons why I wanted hams to participate in EEE, is that APRS technology is a way to know where your resources are out in the field at any one moment. Yes, Bob, go ahead.
Two things. For your information, I have a Kenwood 710G in my vehicle, so I've got APRS there. I'll have to brush up on it. Second point, I just looked at the W7YRC training outline, and due to COVID, there's no classes per se at this time.
Yeah. I know they've been putting the exams on, and people have been getting licensed even during the pandemic. And it's possible if we can purchase some books for a few study guides, we can potentially hold a class for EEE. I can put that on myself to help folks along along the way for testing. Let's see. Why did that show up here? Let's see. I'm just scrolling around. And Ron said he can help also with ham study. That's great. Yep. Lori, if anyone needs help, Lori can help. Yep, she just got her license not too long ago. Lee asks, how far ahead is the escort in front of the rig supposed to be? You know, it's a darn good question, Lee. Again, you're going to be communicating via VHF MERS 5 frequency. You want to be line of sight. So essentially, I don't think you're going to be too far away from them. You also want to, you know, let them know when there are obstacles and hazards in the road. So you're going to have to work with the rig driver to know what their capabilities are, what they require, turning radius, or, you know, if there's a dip in a road or something like that, they may bottom out on or ground out on. You also don't want to be too far away out of sight of them in case they run into trouble. You want to know immediately and not have to necessarily waste time and double back. So I would stay in probably visual range.
Doug?
Yes.
That's exactly right, what you just said. It's important to be far enough ahead so that if they can't get through, they have a way of turning around.
Yep. Yeah, we don't want to get into a position where they get wedged in somewhere and they make it a challenge to
that actually
work
happened
that
in
out.
Paradise. That happened at the Paradise fire, and a rig blocked the road for first responders.
Ooh.
I don't
Yeah.
want.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions for tonight?
I do, Doug.
Idea to have our flashlights on.
You are breaking, I'll just let you know, you are breaking up. Probably a network connection. Sandy, try it again. I'll tell you what, Sandy, try to type it out in the chat window.
Flashlights on the escort cars so that others know that.
Yeah, it's breaking up too much.
Doug, have her take it offline.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Doug,
maybe,
I have a question.
go ahead, Bob.
I'll
Thank you. It's something you and I talked about a while back, and it's been a little on my mind a little bit when I told you that most of these incidents. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, most of these incidents are
I am.
2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
I am.
Hang on, let me
Have
mute.
our emergency.
Hang on. Okay, Sandy is muted.
Great.
Okay, go ahead, Bob. You may. Oh,
Yeah, well, conversation you and I had, and I said most of these incidents have always been
When.
2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on a weekend, and you said, well, we're only going to work during the day. It's interesting to me how you're going to do that, keeping in mind that the first 24 hours of any of these incidents are absolutely crucial. And when you have to evacuate, you got a half an hour to leave. And I don't know how you're going to be getting people back and forth. You can't go back once you leave. So I don't know how you,
we're not going to
a
be.
9 to 5 job. This is it seems to me you're making this like into a 9 to 5 job. We're going to be able to drive around. It ain't going to happen that way, Doug.
Well, we have to, due to liability concerns and everything else, we're not going to be operating at night. That's not going to be part of our purview. The only time we would potentially do that if there is a technical rescue, and that's going to be a limited response anyways. Carol, you can maybe pipe in there, but I'm not sure where that extra audio is coming from, folks.
Well, Doug,
Yeah.
If it's something that happens at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, you're going to wait till the next morning. Everybody's going to be going out of there because they aren't going to be coming back. They're going to be evacuated, and you're not going to be able to be driving all around in there in a fire or a really bad flood. So it seems to me it's a monumental task. You've got to get in and out quickly.
Well,
We will be operating really at the direction of YCSO. And if they want us in there at night and they have escorts for us, we'll do it. But it's not optimum to bring animals out at night. It makes it much more chaotic and much more difficult. Also, the fire, generally they die down at night, but they also become more unpredictable because they can't be scouted out in daylight as well. So
it's a level of risk that
call.
we don't want to assume.
Well,
That's
the point is,
call, and YCSO makes that call for us.
Yeah.
the point is, once you evacuate, and I've done roadblocks, they're not going to let people back in. So how are you going to get back in to help the animals once they go out?
Bob, we are approved, and that's one of the reasons why we have background checks on all our drivers, including the escorts, is you are approved to be able to cross the roadblock upon permission from YCSO. So part of our process, and that's one of the tracking log to know when you're about to cross a roadblock, is you won't cross it unless we have received permission from YCSO.
Okay,
And
so the
those
horse
permissions
owners,
are address
the
specific.
horse owners have already left. They're not there anymore. So we're going to go back in and take the horses out when there's nobody there? Is that what you're saying? 'Cause
No,
the people have already evacuated.
then we may not be going into that location.
If we have permission and the owner has contacted us, yes, we will take them without an owner being there.
Okay.
okay.
That answers my question.
Yeah.
The other thing I had to ask, if you don't mind, and I think Linda to be commended to putting a tremendous program together, and thank you, Doug. But I don't see a whole lot of volunteers at these meetings. 19 participants when we're into a monumental task, I think is what you've taken on. That's not very many, especially when we're trying to learn the new things. And I might suggest that the people that aren't here tonight kind of be contacted in a nice way as to whether they are still interested, and is there anything we could do to help them? Are they going to have the recording just to keep them involved? Because 82, I think John mentioned there's 82 members and half the people don't show up. I haven't had that experience, but we're going to need a lot of people. And I think
I would like to say, it's Craig, right?
No, that was
Bob, that the people in Triple E, the 82 volunteers, that they have specific functions. So a lot of the 82 volunteers are divided up into groups. People who are participating in staging, people who are participating in evacuations, and people who are participating in communications, people who are participating as day volunteers. So 82 people are not going to show up tonight for a communications training. The fact that 18, 19 people are going to show up tonight is a good quarter of our volunteers. And I find that encouraging.
No, Margaret is right, Bob. This is a comms specific meeting, and the largest groups are not comms. Now, maybe they're going to grow into comms, you know how it works with Doug and all those guys spending our money. But the biggest group is EVAC. That was a joke, by the way. And the EVAC people will be having a special group in the next few days. And the staging management people, which is my group, once comms is all sorted out and EVAC's all sorted out, then we will have our specific group. So Margaret's absolutely right. This is a good turnout for comms, and EVAC next week will probably, I'm guessing, have 30 plus people because they're the largest group. So don't despair over that. Not everybody comes to every meeting. They're invited, they're allowed to, they're encouraged to cross-train and cross-familiarize, but we don't expect all the EVAC or staging management people, for example, to come to the comms meeting.
And with the recording, I think some people may be watching it on the video. Speaking of recording, I am